Yes or no, did you need an audit?
And the way
yes or no, did you need an audit?
Stated,
yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question.
Yes or no. You can say no.
The laws and the Constitution.
Yes or no. Should anyone be able to help?
Every veteran should have
Right,
rapid
thank you.
access. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, combat rows, given the standards remain high.
How many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
I couldn't tell you the exact
No, you
amount of
couldn't,
nations
because
in
you've
that,
not
but I
even
know we have
bothered to
allies
do-
in South Korea and Japan and in AUKUS with Australia, and trying to work
Okay.
on submarines with them.
Mr.
and data
Hegseth,
transfers
none
with
of those
them.
countries
We
are
have
in
allies
ASEAN.
across.
Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this job? What drives you?
You have 30 seconds.
Because I love my country.
Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing for the Secretary of Defense position was one of the most anticipated and controversial moments in recent political history. President Donald Trump picked Hegseth to lead the Pentagon, a choice that raised more than a few eyebrows. Known for his outspoken views, especially on military issues, Hegseth's appointment was expected to bring the drama, and the hearing certainly delivered. For those unfamiliar, Pete Hegseth is a former Fox News host, a veteran, and a strong advocate for veterans' rights. He spent much of his career as a vocal supporter of President Trump, even in the face of intense criticism. But his nomination wasn't just about military experience. Hegseth was also a figure surrounded by personal controversies, with allegations ranging from infidelity to serious accusations of sexual assault. Trump's decision to nominate him raised questions from both sides of the aisle. While Republicans largely rallied behind him, many Democrats saw his past as a disqualifier. And the confirmation hearing? Well, it didn't disappoint. From heated exchanges on military policy to uncomfortable questions about his personal life, Hegseth faced intense scrutiny. Here are the 7 jaw-dropping moments from Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing.
Thank you for figuratively and literally having my back.
You are a misogynist. Not only that, you are a Christian Scientist.
I want to thank you.
The hearing kicked off with some tension. While Republicans were all smiles, Democrats were frustrated that Hegseth had ignored their requests for private meetings. Senator Elizabeth Warren didn't hold back, letting Hegseth know that any questions she had would be answered in front of everyone.
You haven't wanted to meet or to answer any of my questions, so we'll just have to do it here and dive in. I want to pick up on some of the questions asked by Senators Shaheen and Gillibrand and Hirono, and I just want to make sure we have a list of some of the facts that I think are undisputed. I'm not going to talk about anonymous sources. I'm just going to quote you directly. We've got the video. We've got it in print. So going back to January 2013, you told a Fox News interviewer that women in the military simply couldn't measure up to men in the military, saying that allowing women to serve in combat roles would force the military to lower the bar. You picked up on that same theme in 2015, making remarks on Fox News, referring to women in combat as, quote, it would erode standards. June 2024, you said on Ben Shapiro's podcast, quote, women shouldn't be in combat at all. And then, of course, we've talked about it in 2024. You published a book, and you say on page 26 of your book, we need moms, but not in the military, especially in combat units. Page 48 of your book, you claim that women should not be in combat roles because men are distracted by women.
Hegseth seemed unwilling to commit to further scrutiny, even though only the Senate Armed Service Committee leaders had seen his FBI background check.
I assume you'd be willing to submit to an expanded FBI background check that interviews your colleagues, accountants, ex-wives, former spouses, sexual assault survivors, and others, and enable them to come forward.
Senator, I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
But you would submit to it and support it.
I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
One of the most talked about moments was when Hegseth repeatedly praised Donald Trump. Even when asked about military orders, Hegseth couldn't resist affirming Trump's leadership, going so far as to bring up Trump's 77 million votes. It seemed like Hegseth's loyalty to the former president was one of the central themes of the hearing.
President-elect has attacked our allies in recent weeks, refusing to rule out using military force to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal, and threatening to make Canada the 51st state. Would you carry out an order from President Trump to seize Greenland, a territory of our NATO ally Denmark, by force, or would you comply with an order to take over the Panama Canal?
Senator, I will emphasize that President Trump received 77 million votes to be the lawful
We're
commander-in-chief
not
of this
talking about
country.
the election. My question is, would you use our military to take over Greenland or an ally of Denmark?
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at is never strategically tipping his hand. And so I would never in this public forum give one way or another direct what orders the president would give me in any context.
That sounds to me that you would contemplate carrying out such an order to basically invade Greenland.
When Hirono interrupted, Hegseth remarked that President Trump is skilled at never strategically tipping his hand. Democrats weren't impressed by his constant references to Trump and accused him of using religion as a distraction from his questionable policy positions.
Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared? How is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Hegseth's lack of experience in government also came up. He boldly stated that not having run a huge organization like the Pentagon was actually an asset, arguing that his leadership experience with people was more valuable.
So can you talk about how you bring accountability to the table, what you've done in the past, and what you're going to do with regard to bringing accountability to the Pentagon?
I meant it when I said it in the opening statement, Senator. I know what I don't know. I know I've never run an organization of 3 million people with a budget of $850 billion. But what I do know is that I've led men and women. I've led people. And it's leadership of people and motivation of people and a clear vision of people where you build a team, cast that vision, empower people properly. I want smarter and more capable people around me than me. And you will get that at the department. I cast the clear vision, build the plan, work it, we set the metrics, and everyone is held accountable. I know our incoming businessman president believes in accountability and holding people accountable.
Hegseth claimed that his lack of bureaucratic experience would help him connect more directly with the military's rank and file. However, Democratic senators argued that this inexperience made him unqualified for the position. Senators, however, weren't convinced, with some saying his lack of experience disqualified him from running the military.
I don't believe that you can tell this committee or the people of America that you are qualified to lead them. I would support you as the spokesperson for the Pentagon. I don't dispute your communication skills, but I believe that we are entitled to the facts here. I've asked for more documents.
Things got heated when the topic of Hegseth's sexual assault allegations resurfaced. Despite his claims that the 2017 accusations were false, Democrats dug in, reminding Hegseth of his past infidelities, including cheating while married. Senator Tim Kaine was especially relentless.
And you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges.
Well,
it was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel on October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
Anything...
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman.
Again,
how do you explain your judgment?
Completely false charges against me. You fully investigated, and I was completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
That was a false claim.
So
Just
you
talking
can't,
about a hypothetical.
So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, it was a false claim.
But you acknowledge
And
you
it was
cheat, but you
fully
acknowledge
investigated.
that you cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have admitted that.
I will allow your words to speak for themselves.
You're not retracting that today.
The pressure continued as they questioned why he didn't disclose these issues to President Trump during his transition team's vetting process. Hegseth found himself caught in a flip-flop moment when discussing women in combat. After previously stating that women didn't belong in combat roles, he suddenly changed his stance, telling Senator Joni Ernst that women should have access to ground combat roles.
Secretary of Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Senator, first of all, thank you for your service, as we discussed extensively as well.
It's my privilege.
And my answer is yes, exactly the way that you caveated it. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, given the standards remain high.
In a November 7, 2024, interview on The Sean Ryan Show, Pete Hegseth expressed opposition to women serving in combat roles.
You don't like women in combat?
No. I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
Senators like Kirsten Gillibrand weren't impressed with the sudden change in position, calling it a clear sign of inconsistency.
But most recently, you said this in November of 2024, knowing full well you might have been named as Secretary of Defense. So please explain these types of statements, because they're brutal and they're mean and they disrespect men and women who are willing to die for this country.
Well, Senator, I appreciate your comments, and I would point out I have never disparaged women serving in the military. I respect every single female service member that has put on the uniform past and present. My critiques, Senator, recently and in the past, and from personal experience, have been instances where I've seen standards lowered.
A terrible statement. So please, do not deny that you've made those statements. You have. We take the responsibility of standards very seriously, and we will work with you. I'm equally distressed. You would not meet with me before this hearing.
Things escalated when Senator Alyssa Slotkin asked Hegseth whether he believed any orders from the president could be unconstitutional. Hegseth dodged the question, defending President Trump's actions and rejecting the idea that Trump would ever give illegal orders.
As the Secretary of Defense, you will be the one man standing in the breach should President Trump give an illegal order, right? I'm not saying he will, but if he does, you are going to be the guy that he calls to implement this order. Do you agree that there are some orders that can be given by the Commander-in-Chief that would violate the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, thank you for your service. But I reject the premise that President Trump is going to be giving illegal orders.
No, I'm not saying he will, but do you believe there is such a thing as an illegal order that Joe Biden or any other president, Donald Trump, could give? Is there anything that a commander-in-chief could ask you to do with the uniformed military that would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, anybody of any party
Right.
could give an order that is against the Constitution or against the law.
Right. Okay. Are you saying that you would stand in the breach and push back if you were given an illegal order?
I start by saying I reject the premise that President Trump will be
understand.
giving
You've done your
any
genuflecting
illegal
to him,
orders
but
at all.
This isn't a hypothetical, okay? Your predecessor in a Trump administration, Secretary Esper, was asked and did use uniformed military to clear unarmed protesters. He was given the order to potentially shoot at them. Helos flew low in Washington, D.C. as crowd control. He later apologized publicly for those actions. Was he right or wrong to apologize?
Senator, I was there on the ground. I saw the
I understand, and I respect that.
I've been there.
But you're about
I understand
to
the
be
level
the
of threat
Secretary of Defense.
that was involved in that moment. I
Was
also
he right
understand
to? So he was
legality
was
and the
he,
Constitution.
Sir, was he right
and the
or
laws of
wrong
what you have.
to apologize?
I'm not going to put words in the mouth of Secretary Esper or anybody else.
No, he said them himself. You don't have to. What are you scared of? Did he do the right thing by apologizing?
I'm not scared of anything, Senator.
Then say
I'm
yes or no.
interested
You
in
can say no.
upholding the laws and the Constitution.
And then there was the surprise moment with Senator Joni Ernst. Once a critical swing vote, Ernst seemed to warm to Hegseth as the hearing went on. By the end, she even praised him for his commitment to addressing sexual assault issues within the military, asking him to appoint a senior official dedicated to sexual assault prevention.
So as Secretary of Defense, will you appoint a senior level official dedicated to sexual assault prevention and response?
Senator, as we have discussed, yes, I will.
Okay, and my time has expired. Thank you for your answers.
After a hearing filled with fireworks and jaw-dropping moments, the question remains, will Pete Hegseth be confirmed as Secretary of Defense? From sexual assault allegations to shifting positions on policy, this hearing has left a lot of people questioning his suitability for the job. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Amplifying the impact of our Navy, because this administration has allowed our number of ships to drop below 300. It sets a projection of 340 or 350, but doesn't create the capacity to actually address it. And so if we're going to defend our interests, our allies, and put America first, we're going to have to be able to project power. That means shipbuilding. It means historic investments in our defense industrial base there. And then also driving innovation and cost savings in ways that only business leaders inside the Pentagon can do.